Venezuela ready to defend itself for Essequibo, says Nicolas Maduro. You're watching The Final Takeaway. We're here to inform, engage, and empower you on trending events and issues about Guyana and neighboring regions. Subscribe for free and join our fast-growing subscriber network. Thank you, and big shout out to the almost 700 lovely people who hit that subscribe button in the past 10 days and are posting their comments on our videos. We also want to recognize all of our subscribers. All of you are a part of this wonderful, growing community. Now, let's get to it. Are you ready? A few days ago, Venezuela's president, Nicolas Maduro, promised that his country would leave no stone unturned to defend itself against military escalation by Guyana over Essequibo. Maduro's statement came at a time when he accused the Guyana government of provoking and, quote, plotting a war plan against his country, to which Maduro says his country is ready to defend itself through various means. And by the way, Maduro's statement came days after a military warship belonging to Venezuela illegally crossed the border, entered Guyana, pulled up near ExxonMobil's oil storage facilities that's located offshore Guyana, and warned that oil drilling was being done in an area Guyana may not have rights to. We're talking about the Stabroek Block, where ExxonMobil has license to drill for oil. We're talking about those other blocks that other oil giants have license to exploit the resources offshore Guyana. But let's get back to it. And first things first, who said anything about war? No one from the Guyana government said publicly that they were gearing up for armed engagement with Venezuela. Based on recent statements on TV and in the papers, the dictatorial head of state of Venezuela seems to be the one who's fixated with involving the military. Once again, we see Venezuela twisting the facts and events, perhaps, to manipulate others to see things from their side. As Bob Marley said, you can fool some of the people some of the times, but you can't fool all of the people all of the times. Venezuela has not produced one shred of evidence to back up its claims about Guyana drawing up a war plan. There is victim playing going on here, and those with awareness of the history and facts surrounding Essequibo, and those who are independent thinkers can see through the not-so-factual stories coming out of Caracas. You know who the provoker and instigator is. If anyone is seeking to escalate the border crisis, the Essequibo border crisis, it is you know who. Trying to provoke the border situation, Venezuela referred to Guyana's president, Irfan Ali, as, quote, the Zelensky of the Caribbean, meaning that Guyana's president is pushing for conflict the way Maduro believes Ukraine's president, Vladimir Zelensky, triggered conflict against Putin's Russia. Again, who said anything about war? The only person using the forbidden W word is Maduro and his government. Whatever happened to diplomacy? Whatever happened to the Argyle Declaration for Peace? Guys, let me ask you this. Did you read or see or hear anything from any legitimate source that Guyana is planning to go up against Venezuela, or even used the W word in any context to suggest it has military intentions toward Venezuela? Okay. Despite having no valid evidence, the Venezuela Foreign Ministry specifically said that, quote, in the face of the threats of conflict launched and, quote, aggression by Guyana's president, the Spanish country will defend itself by seeking a, quote, peaceful resolution through Bolivarian peace diplomacy grounded in patriotism and the unity of the nation's civic, military, and police forces. Basically, they're saying we're going to use military force. We're going to use armed force. Let me ask you this. How can a country use the term peace, diplomacy, and military, police, and civilian army in the same sentence and mean any good? Is that possible? Isn't that a contradiction? So, is it going to be a solution through peaceful means, or are they going to come bearing arms? Today, we're going to look at some of the things that Guyana said and actions taken to determine whether Guyana is, in fact, plotting to engage Venezuela using force, as Maduro claims. Let's start with the latest major incident, the Venezuelan warship's entry into Guyana on March the 1st, 2025. In case you don't know, a Venezuelan ship, Navy patrol vessel, sailed into Guyana, a territory it does not own or control, for no other reason than to cause trouble. On an ordinary day, no country just casually sails into another country's maritime zone without permission. This is unprecedented in some ways in modern day. The warship sailing into Guyana is no different from breaking into someone's house, and it's downright illegal to do that. The only person or only country that think it's okay to just casually sail into another territory is you know who and you know which country. Based on reports, Guyana issued a warning to the Navy ship and later deployed naval and air assets, as expected and as it should. Now, that's a significant and important step for any country to take. Wouldn't you agree? Guyana has a right to do so in defense of its territory, and it did so without threats of force or the actual use of force, based on all the information reaching this channel. In the circumstances, Guyana's counter-response to Venezuela's violation of its boundaries can't be considered aggressive or plotting war. As a matter of fact, if Venezuela tries that with, let's say, Brazil, which it shares a border with, do you think it's going to go down like that? No, sir. It's not going to go down the way Guyana handled the situation. It would be worse. But Venezuela continues to pick on Guyana, the small guy with the small army, on purpose. Do you want to know why? Because Venezuela thrives on the fact that Guyana's army is no match for the Bolivarian army, plus Venezuela's civilian armed force, plus its police force, and whatever other entity Venezuela will enlist to do its bidding as it seeks to invade and annex Essequibo and grab all of its resources and make it Venezuelan property. So once again, Guyana deploying military, air, and navy assets in response to the Venezuelan incursion is not an inappropriate and it's not a disproportionate counter response to secure its border. Stay with me. We're still looking at things the Guyana government said and did to determine if it is trying to provoke conflict, as Maduro claims. Another major step taken by Guyana was to call up the U.S. and inform its officials about Venezuela's latest illegal conduct. And again, Guyana is well within its rights to do just that. It is a sovereign and independent state. It's not being ran by Maduro. As you may know, the United States is one of Guyana's allies, perhaps one of its strongest allies when it comes to the power, magnitude, and strength of the U.S. military defense capabilities. You know what I mean? Okay, it's like if someone gets on your bad side or threatens you. Instead of retaliating with threats of force, you maintain your calm and your peace, but you call up your best buddy, your ride or die. You let them know what went down, just in case you're gonna need backup. So yes, Guyana contacted the United States to put the country on notice. Is this what Maduro means by Guyana's planning military retaliation? In response to Venezuela's illegal entry into Guyana, the United States issued a strong message to the Maduro regime, warning that any further act by Venezuela to provoke the border situation with Guyana is going to result in consequences for Venezuela. Venezuela is about to be put on the naughty mat if it does anything contrary again. Let's wait and see if Venezuela can follow the U.S. orders. Another thing Guyana did about 4 weeks ago is to condemn the armed attack on 6 Guyana defense soldiers by members of a gang called Las Claritas Sindicato. The gang is said to be associated with Venezuelan officials, allegedly. Did you hear or read anything in the news that suggests Guyana responded with military force or threats of military force? Okay, attacking another country's citizens, let alone its military troops, is often grounds for retaliation. But as I've said in another video, Guyana is playing the long game, and Guyana is playing it cool, keeping its head up and maintaining its confidence despite the recent events by Venezuela and its associates. And I know there are critics saying, well, Guyana cannot go up against Venezuela anyway because, comparatively speaking, it would be a David and Goliath situation. The Bolivarian army of Venezuela has over 300,000 troops and counting. And this is not counting the civilian armed forces attached to the Bolivarian army and Venezuela's other armed assets. Stay with me. We're still looking at things Guyana said and did to determine if the country is trying to provoke conflict, as Maduro says. Join me for part 2 of this series in the next episode.